Today we're going to discuss a project located in far southeastern Oklahoma, which is relative to natural gas development. This project is located on this first map, and what we see here on this map is the Red River forming the southern border between Texas and Oklahoma, and the eastern border of Oklahoma where Arkansas and Oklahoma meet. We're in far southeastern Oklahoma in the county of LaFleur County, and there we will find that we have a block of acreage of 13,000 acres located right here in this red box. In addition to this particular piece of acreage, we're showing the Potato Hills field discovered in 2001, the Amico field in 1984, Hope in 1993, and the Kiamishi field in 1992. All of these fields have combined for large volumes of dry natural gas. Traditionally, the gas production from here is from the Wapanucka or JackFork series and is a very low BTU, approximately 1,050 BTU per MCF. These wells particularly don't make very much water, if any. The Talihina block and the Potato Hills block are located side by side under the Winding Stair Fault, which you see depicted in black riding above these two particular projects. These other three fields discovered north of the fault are bound by another fault called Ty Valley. These faults create blocks which pop up, and many of these are anticline drapes, with these blocks being over the tops of the anticlines. To the south, you see a much larger red box right here, which indicates an option region for more prospects of as many as 8 more projects to be drilled in deep natural gas, tapping the first, second, and third JackFork and the Simpson, Viola, and Arbuckle series. Basement in this area can be as much as 50,000 feet. The last deep well drilled in Potato Hills was 26,000 and tagged basement at approximately 30,000. The second map we're going to is roughly the same topo map as this one, only here we show more of the geological detail of the project. The Ty Valley fault is first, the Winding Stair fault is second, and 2 more major faults to the south, showing us that the Talihina project is located right here next to the Winding Stair fault. You may also see the dashed black line running northeast by southwest. That is the Talihina anticlinorium. That is the draping mechanism that creates the high that you see at Potato Hills, which we'll look at in a few minutes, and it also creates the high you see in the Talihina project. Talihina is somewhat smaller in aerial extent but has thicker zones. The two projects have approximately 2 TCF each in gas in place. Moving on to the third map, this is another depiction of the same area as the topo maps with a different presentation of data. Again, we see the 4 gas fields we're talking about, including Talihina, and we also see a little bit more detail to the south on the 8 other prospects that exist to the south area. Today, we're talking only about Talihina in particular as being offered for development in drilling or production. This particular map shows an area to the south of approximately 400,000 additional acres, as opposed to the 13,000 at Talihina and roughly 30,000 at Potato Hills. Moving on to the next map. This map is a general cross-section showing the Potato Hills particular field in the first JackFork shown in blue at the top, and the second repeated JackFork shown in blue at the bottom. There is probably another section of JackFork. As we know, there is also Arbuckle, Simpson, and Viola. These wells drilled in the Potato Hills are shown here on top of this anticline, and you can see the rollover effect right here, as well as over here, of the Talihina anticlinorium. You can see that effect again at the bottom, where this zone is rolling over. These zones are found in the hanging wall of the Winding Stair fault, just to the south of the fault, where they intersect that fault plane right here. They dip further to the south as you leave the anticlinorium and you come off the JackFork, and the dip, as you can see, is very steep, as much as 800 feet per linear mile. This particular detail of the Potato Hills is repeated somewhat in our Talihina project, which you'll see further in the other cross section. Moving on to the next one. This bottom piece is a more regional cross-section showing an area south of Tulsa, Oklahoma, running generally south in this direction until you reach A prime south, which is just south of the Red River in Texas. This is a very broad regional cross-section, but it indicates all of the faulting that's basement-oriented, as you see in these heavy black lines down here at the bottom of the map, And then you see in blue again at the top of the map all of the JackFork series as it has been broken up, thrusted up, and rolled over. This particular piece in the center, as you can see, is the number 133 Ratcliffe. Amoco GHK drilled it. This was one of the discoveries for the Potato Hills field itself. Once again, you see the anticline rollover effect where the zone comes from a much lower, deeper area and rolls over the top of the Talihina anticline. This anticline extends beyond Potato Hills, runs further northeast to Talihina, and again creates the rollover effect we'll look at on the next piece. This cross-section at the top depicts the exact detailed cross-section and geology of not only Potato Hills, but of our Talihina gas field as well. Here you'll see a series of pop-up and thrust blocks, this one being high at Potato Hills, somewhat lower as you're moving to the northeast, even lower yet, moving further northeast, and this distance here is a little over 3 miles. And then you see the blocks pop back up. This one is rolled over the Talihina anticline again, and here is the basic structure that we're dealing with when you're talking about what we're going to do for drilling at Potato Hills. This particular piece of the cross-section is the overview of the current situation at the Talihina field. This is an outcrop of JackFork sandstone to the north and an outcrop of JackFork sandstone to the south. This particular area is where we want to drill the dresser well, the initial drilling for this particular project. This area right here should be the highest tier of leases in geological terms, and it should dip to the south at about 800 feet per linear mile. There has been sporadic drilling through the center. All of these wells encountered natural gas and did somewhat well in terms of cumes, although nothing close to what Potato Hills has done. None of these wells have been frac treated the way they needed to be, and hence they've had low production so far. The black well, on the other hand, is right here, just south of our dresser area, and that particular well has cumed over 200 million cubic feet to date using natural flow with no compression into an 800-pound, 32-inch pipeline. As you move up above it on the map, what we see is the cross-section showing the placement of the first JackFork and the second repeated JackFork as we should encounter them in drilling. These regional strap tests are through the center, and you're seeing those right here, and they've met with some success. Only 2 of them penetrated JackFork. We have the logs on those, and they show a large amount of porosity and pay available in those 2 particular zones. The dresser well will be located up in the corner of the project, and we'll drill through the Stanley series and at least the upper JackFork, and should be productive in both sections. From this particular corner well being drilled right here, we will develop the remainder of the geology in terms of control and confirmation of what we know to be there to date from previous drilling. In this entire project, you're dealing with net 80% revenue leases. You have a 13,000 acre block. These leases have no PU clause. They have no shut-in clause until 10 years after the well is drilled. They have 3 years left on their term. Your net 80 revenue is derived from the base mineral interest and an override that's on those leases. You have pooling, which is available to drill these wells on 640 acre spacing. You can request 320 diagonal offset or 160 acre spacing. The Oklahoma Corporation Commission will grant all of that. There is a reserve study done on the development to date in the Talihina project dated 2011. That reserve study is available. We have a large amount of logs, well files, regional geology, and other articles on this. At your request, we will provide those to the proper parties. We are seeking someone to drill this production with us, or to participate in drilling, or to do a farm out. The general acquisition of this project is probably available to the right party. To date, we have spent approximately $1.8 million in land and lease costs, and these leases are all filed in LaFleur County, Oklahoma. There are approximately 62 separate leases in the block. There are some leases that are not leased to date but can be acquired through pooling and or further leasing. That's it for today.